guys don't need to wait like 8 or 9 seconds through an intro right now. We're in a rush. It's Streaming Guide Day 2 here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Today we'll cover Tuesday, March 4th, and tomorrow, Wednesday, March 5th, for those of you that are in leagues where you have to make moves a day in advance or through overnight fab budgets. This is for head-to-head leaguers. I guess you can be in your playoffs. You don't have to be to utilize this type of show for streaming purposes. This is just a guide to maximize your games played during your playoffs and try to take you to victory. If you missed yesterday's show, we gave you our tenets very quickly just to recap those. You want to use as at least half the number of streaming slots as moves you have during the week. So if you have 4 moves per week, you want to stream at least, possibly more, 2 slots. Drops that you must make early in the week are guys that are getting you zeros. If you're in your playoffs, you cannot afford to be sitting on guys getting you zeros. And then finally, be comfortable using your moves a little bit earlier in the week and praying for the best Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You want to maximize games, and one way you can do that is to make sure that you're using your moves when you can hold guys for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days and getting a big games played bump over who you left behind. Here is what this looks like. Here's the playoff streaming guide, Tuesday the 4th, Wednesday the 5th. Follow me at Dan Besbris on Twitter, DanBesBris, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky, Old Man Squad Fantasy over on Instagram. I haven't thrown that out there in a while, but it's true. Hit the like button if you're enjoying these types of shows. Please rate 5 stars if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, and no matter where you take in the content, a subscription would really go a long way. Let's take a look at today. Remember, we actually covered every day twice on this show. Every single day is going to get covered 2 times. We'll update with injury news in between the episodes of the show. So if anybody gets ruled out, ruled in, whatever, we can update that on these boards, because today we'll cover Tuesday and Wednesday, and then tomorrow we'll do Wednesday and Thursday, and so on and so forth. So there's sort of this opportunity to kind of refresh everybody. Today, your teams to target are the Cleveland Cavaliers. They have a back-to-back today and tomorrow. Then they play 3 times in 4 nights and 4 times in 6. The Clippers, who have the best schedule of the bunch because they not only have everything that we just mentioned for Cleveland, but they also play 6 times in 9 days. And you know Kawhi Leonard is getting a couple of those off. So fringy players. Norman Powell back out again, by the way. That's already been confirmed. Ben Simmons is out. Derrick Jones Jr. is out. We'll go over some of that in a minute. It just makes other streaming options for the Clippers a little bit easier to get behind because they're going to have more to do. Minnesota has the same deal as Cleveland, so back-to-back, a 3-4 and a 4-6. And the Knicks play 3 times in 4 nights. They don't even have a back-to-back at the front end, though, so that is very much your backup to the backup plan for Tuesday. Before I tell you who to pick up on those teams, remember that BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number 1 source for online betting in 2025. From every 3-pointer to hat-trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more on every game, every play, and every win. So no matter whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-timer, BetOnline becomes your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from the NBA to college basketball to the NHL to UFC to baseball coming up to football, all different levels, props, live odds, everything, everyone. BetOnline is your number 1 sports betting source. BetOnline, the game starts here, and a proud partner of Old Man Squad Sports Network. Here are the players to target for Tuesday. We, again, remember, covered this yesterday, but there was one small adjustment under the Clippers section. You'll know that there was a little bit of a tweak there with a couple guys getting ruled out. Starting with Cleveland, that's probably your best landing place, at least in terms of options that have a little bit of upside, but it also means that some of these guys are probably taken already. Jerome would be the best one. He's been on and off of rosters pretty regularly since early in the season. He's an outstanding replacement level guy anytime that Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland sits. Overall on the year, Jerome is number 106 in 9-cat, which tells you how good he's been in total. But when he's filled in for an injured player, he's been, like top 40. And when he hasn't, he's been like a very good streamer, which is what we assume he's going to be here. But you never know. There's some upside built in there because the Cavaliers have a back-to-back. And so it's possible Donovan Mitchell rested on Sunday. Maybe he rests again tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe Darius Garland does. So you might get an extra couple of mega fill-in games from Jerome, and hopefully you could still get him on your roster. Likely picked up because of Donovan's missed game on Sunday, but you never know. DeAndre Hunter, who's coming off a big ball game, he should have been dropped in a lot of places, but also wasn't because some people were like, well, it's like been fine enough. If he's dropped, he'd be a really nice back-to-back and a really good play for those 6 days. If you're hunting points, he can be a really good source of points and a little bit in threes. Also, percentages tend to be okay. Ty Jerome, I could have bolded a lot of stuff there. For those that are watching along, you can see that I've put in bold the categories that I feel more strongly these players can help, where they have that specialist appeal. And DeAndre Hunter for points. Ty Jerome probably could have bolded 2 or 3 of those things, but he's just sort of like very medium good. That's right, at all of them. And then finally, Max Strus, who of all of these guys is the most likely to be available on your waiver wire. He's not going to blow you away in anything, but he's going to get you some threes. He's going to get you some boards. He's going to get you some assists. He'll probably score a little bit. Field goal percent's not going to be great because a lot of his shots come from outside, but he's a good foul shooter. Turnovers are low. Defensive stats are meh, but not terrible. This is like the prototypical time to roll Max Strus out there because you're going to get a nice number of games played, and he's going to help you in a lot of different spots. He doesn't sort of wedge you into trying to attack specific categories this early in the week. He can give you a little bit and a lot. For the Clippers, the options are Kris Dunn, one of my favorites on the board. He should actually probably be just rostered in most formats right now with Norman Powell re-injured. Different injury. Went from a knee thing to a hamstring thing, so go figure. But Kawhi's going to sit some back-to-back. Ben Simmons is hurt because Ben Simmons, what are we even doing here? And Dunn is going to rack up a ton of steals. You're going to get some boards. You're going to get some assists. You're going to get a couple of points here and there and a three-pointer a night. But the real key with Kris Dunn is he's the kind of pickup that can win you steals this week. Not by himself. That's an overused expression that makes no sense. But if you're sitting on a team that's decent in steals already and you throw 4 games of Kris Dunn on top of it, or screw it, hold him for 9 days and get 6 games of Kris Dunn starting today through the middle of next week, 6 games of Kris Dunn, he might get you a dozen steals or more. It's legitimate, like a lot. So look at how your week projects out and throw an extra 5 to 10 steals on top of it. That might get you over the top. Bogdan Bogdanovic, I don't expect him to be great, but I think he could be an okay source of threes and points with all these guys out. Derrick Jones, who was on our board yesterday as a possible play for Tuesday, but we knew he was dealing with an injury. Didn't know if he was going to be back. Now we know he's not, and that pushes Amir Coffey into the low-end play. This is more of like a 14 to 16 team streamer. You'll get a few points, probably, 8 to 12 points out of Coffey, and he's an okay foul shooter. The other options for today suck. Minnesota, you're really only looking at Mike Conley, and I don't know that he's even going to play in the back-to-back, and even if he does, we're talking about 40 minutes over 2 games, so you're looking at probably about 12 to 14 points and like 8 to 10 assists over 2 days. That's not really very good. And then with New York, you're kind of praying. This is like close your eyes, fingers crossed that one of the starters misses a game over the next 3 games and 4 nights, and then Miles McBride can rock in there. But if it's a big man that gets blown up, I would really only go the New York path in a severe, severe pinch. Let's move along to Wednesday, provided I can scroll at the appropriate speed. There we go. Good job, Dan. Wednesday, this is if you're planning ahead, and this is always good to think of. And by the way, I'll add on the Tuesday thing, just a quick strategic thought here. I wouldn't use any moves today unless, 1, you found out a guy in your team was hurt, and there's probably going to miss 2 or 3 ball games. That's a time to use a move on Tuesday. 2, if you didn't use any moves on Monday, you could certainly use a move today because you'll have plenty left over for the rest of the week. So analyze it from that perspective. I will also mention the only team with a quote-unquote bad schedule starting today, Tuesday, is Detroit. They have 1 game over 4 days, but after that, they have a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. So if you have a Detroit streamer, that's a situation where maybe you could pivot to Cleveland or Charlotte, or what did I just say? Cleveland or the Clippers, probably not the Wolves or the Knicks, and then try to come back to Detroit later, or you just wait it out because the Pistons still have 3 games left this week. It's not a bad scheduling week. It's just a bad scheduling little mini pocket in the middle of an overall totally fine week for Detroit. So very much an optional kind of thing. There we go. Wednesday, let's look at tomorrow. Boston has a back-to-back. Boston and Miami actually have pretty good schedules coming up here. Boston starting tomorrow, again, not today, Don't get it confused. Tomorrow, they have a Wednesday, Thursday back-to-back. Then they play Saturday. I'll just walk with me on this one. We'll walk you through it. They play Wednesday, Thursday back-to-back, then Saturday. Then they play Monday of next week, Wednesday of next week, and Friday, Saturday of next week. That ends up being 7 games over 11 days. Pretty damn good for Boston. Miami, a similar schedule, but their back-to-back at the front end is flip-flopped. So it's not quite as robust. You're not getting the immediate impact of 2 games over 2 days. But Miami goes today, or sorry, not today. Screw that up for you guys. Tomorrow, Wednesday, they're in Cleveland. Then they play Friday, Saturday, off Sunday. They play Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday again of next week. So similarly, it's 7 games over 11 days, but the back-to-backs are not at the front and back end. They're at the back end and the second and third games. And then the final team that you could potentially look at for today is Charlotte. I almost accidentally talked about them as a... oh my God, this is confusing me. I was going to tell you to subscribe, but the way that I'm talking about this, you probably don't want to. Charlotte, tomorrow. We're talking about Wednesday. We're not talking about today. I keep saying today. I'm sorry. Charlotte, tomorrow, they play Minnesota. They're off on Thursday. They're back on Friday, Saturday. Their schedule goes every other day for like a week and a half after that. So you wouldn't really want to go beyond maybe Monday, but that's an overload day. So I would suggest with Charlotte, if you're going to go that direction tomorrow, you just play it for 3 games in 4 nights. Here are the players to look at on those teams as I once again try to scroll. Oh, I was so close. I almost scrolled the right distance. Boston. So Sam Hauser and Luke Cornett are the 2 names that are on the board for me for the Boston Celtics. And I know that in like individual games, it's probably not going to go that great for them. But we just talked about the fact that Boston has 2 back-to-backs among their next 7 ball games. So 4 of those 7 games are going to be involved in the back-to-back nature, meaning they're going to try to find Jaylen Brown some days off. We know Drew Holiday is just out these days. They're going to find Porzingis days off. They're going to find Horford days off. They might find Tatum or White days off in there. I don't know. I won't guarantee that because those guys sometimes are of the players are the most likely to play in all 4 games of the back-to-back. But the beauty is the streamers that I put on the board, Cornett and Hauser, if healthy, are likely to play in all of them. And so they get a bump in the front end when, say, Porzingis and Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown are out, and they get a bump in the back end if Tatum sits and Drew's still out and Horford sits that one instead. And maybe that's not as great of a bump as when you take out a higher usage guy. But someone like a Sam Hauser, over, even if you're just looking at the 3 games in 4 nights this week, if 2 of those games he's getting 25 to ish, 20, call it 23 to 27 minutes, and then only 1 of the 3 games he's getting crapper minutes, you could conceivably mark him down, kind of earmark him for like 6 3-pointers over those 3 games. And you could probably earmark him for like a dozen 3-pointers over the 7 games. It's very targeted, and he's not going to get you much else unless you get really lucky and he catches fire in one of those games. But hey, that's the upside. Maybe he has one game in there where he hits 5 or 6 threes, and over the 3 games this week, maybe he gets you 10 instead of 6. And with Cornett, again, you're not looking for a lot, but Porzingis is going to rest at least one half of the back-to-back, and he's been out anyway, and Horford is going to rest the other. So there's room for Cornett on both sides of it. And then you're hunting field goal percent and blocks, and anything beyond that is gravy. Maybe he gets you 4 or 5 blocks over the 3 games this week. That's a big deal if you're in a weekly head-to-head battle and you want to win blocks. Drop him into your lineup. You go from, 23 blocks in the week to 27 or 28. That's really helpful. That's a big bump because they're hard to find. Charlotte. Okay. Charlotte's a little dumb, but we're gonna roll with it. Charlotte has, as we've mentioned, the back-to-back is on the flip side of it. They go Wednesday and then they're off and then they're on for 2 days. So whoever you might pick up on the Hornets tomorrow on Wednesday, you would want to hold for at least those 4 days. Yusuf Nurkic is probably looking at about 17 minutes in 2 of the games and probably like about 25, 26 minutes in the other. That's an okay stream. and he'll get you some boards, assists, and some defense. It's not going to be great, but if those categories are what you're hunting and you can get 3 games in 4 nights, and you're talking about probably about 60 minutes over the 3 games, he could do some pretty good damage in 60 minutes. And I apologize. I should have looked this one up before we started. I believe it's Damian Baugh, but it might be Damian Bow. Damian, an okay assists and steals play over those 3 days. Don't expect too much. Josh Green will probably get you 2 to 4 steals. And Nick Smith Jr. over those 3 games, because we know LaMelo is going to sit at least 1, and Mark Williams is going to sit at least 1. That opens up a little bit of extra usage. Nick Smith probably can get you about 35 points over those 3 games, which, again, crappy, but something. Miami does have a couple of options here. Haywood Highsmith has been taken on a thawed from frozen carbonite. And again, we talked about Miami having a better schedule, so you could hold these guys for a long haul. I would say my favorites on Miami, Duncan Robinson, he's probably rostered because he's been playing well lately. And Miami right now is in the midst of a 5-game and 7-day stretch that started last Sunday. So these players are going to be harder to get tomorrow on Wednesday because they're already in a good scheduling spot. Miami, great schedule starting all the way back on that Sunday. I didn't count it up, but I think that would be what? That's 5 games over 7 days. And then if you add another 7 days, they go 4. Yeah. So, I mean, nine games over 14 days. That's a really good clip for the Heat right now. Davion Mitchell is probably a free agent in your league. He's probably the direction you'd want to lean. Frankly, of everybody on our board for Wednesday, he's probably the best one, but he's not going to get you much more than assists and steals. The nice thing is he'll get you 3 games worth this week. He'll get you another 4 games worth next week if he's in there. He did not play in their last ball game, but I am hoping that was because they were playing Washington. That's my hope. It seemed like Miami was able to give everybody a little bit of a breather. We'll see, unfortunately, by tomorrow. If you want to shy away from Mitchell, I understand because he missed the last ball game. You could go Highsmith, you could go Robinson if they're available. Those guys did play in the last one, and so you can kind of assume that they'll probably play in the next one as well. That, ladies and gentlemen, is your streaming show, and I'm going to try to keep them to this general length going forward. Please do subscribe if you want to make sure you don't miss any of our streaming target shows. From now until the end of the regular season, we're going to try to do one every single day, weekends included. Although Sunday we might do more like the weekly preview show. So we'll see how those pieces fall together. And I'll try to get some of this stuff over on Twitter as well for those that want to see the graphics. I also try to cut and paste that into the show description so you guys can look through it there as well. On the YouTube feed, it's much harder to do on the traditional pod feed because it really clutters it up and the formatting gets super screwy. Before you go, though, of course, hang out with us and our friends over at UnderdogFantasy.com. Use promo code OLDMAN or click the link in the show description to play Pick'em. And all you got to do is pick higher or lower on any 2 or more players. They got points, rebounds, assists, steals, threes, blocks, first quarter, second quarter, first half, second half, for so many different players on the card for your chance to win up to 1,000 times your entry fee. And if you use our promo code, you can get up to $1,000 in deposit match bonus cash at a 50% clip. And a promo to use whenever you like on a free square. Basically, it turns somebody's projection into 0.5. I would say use it on points for a star player. All they got to do is hit a free throw, a bucket, score of any kind, and that one becomes a victory. So you can loop that in with one other one, and having to pick 2 winners basically becomes 1. You can also use it on bigger cards if you want. Like use it on a 6 projection pick'em card, and it becomes only 5. I don't care how you use it. Just use it eventually. Sign up now at UnderdogFantasy.com with promo code OLDMAN. That'll let them know that Dan sent you, and they'll say, who the hell is Dan? Sorry, stupid joke. Dad joke. Thanks for watching, everybody. Dan Vespers on Twitter. Let's hang out. Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. And again, join us in Discord. All of my nightly recaps are going in Discord right now. It's easier and faster, and I can do many of them as the games are finishing off, which I can't do on Twitter. I have to wait until the very end. Don't worry, they'll come back to social media at the beginning of next season, but for right now, they're mostly going to be in Discord. All of my daytime stuff will maintain on social media. It's just the nightly recaps that are moving over to Discord now. Hit that like button on the way out. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for the rate and review. I'm Dan. We'll have another double episode tomorrow. Recap, streamer. It's grind time, baby. Let's win those playoffs. Don't use moves unless you have to right now. You can use as many as 2 by the end of today. That's my rule. All right, see you guys.